Hey, what's up? This is Dr. Funkenslice. Got a few requests to do a guide, so I figured I'd put it together and give it a shot. We'll go over Covenants and Conduits, Legendaries, talents, and we'll look at the rotation and talk about gear and all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah, let's get started. Alright, let's talk Conduits and Soulbinds and Covenants. Venthyr, very good. I play it basically everywhere. Theatar, very powerful Soulbind. Triple Potency, Lashing Scars is a great conduit. Anji is okay. I don't really play it for Outlaw. As you can see here, I have my Assassination set up. Party Favors is a great capstone trait. Gives you crit, haste, verse, or agility. You're going to want to shoot for verse because it gives you the raw 3% stat. Necrolord is also a very viable playstyle. Serrated Bone Spike is very good in AoE. When you use Blade Flurry in AoE, when you use Serrated Bone Spike in AoE with Blade Flurry on, it does proc Blade Flurry. It also has good Soulbinds. I recommend if you do want to play Necrolord that you'll go for Plague Deviser Marilith. Preemptive Strike is good, very good. For that even more priority damage. Of course, you can also play the Triple Potency. Sudden Fractures makes, long cleave, long, extended duration cleave. It's very good there. Yeah. Night Fae, unfortunately, is just not good for Outlaw. Sepsis and the effect that it has with the extra stealth use of Vanish is not great. So we'll basically stay away from that. Kyrian is... Kyrian is very good for single target. However, it's a little bit more complicated of a playstyle. It primarily uses Invigorating Shadow Dust as the legendary that goes along with this, which is... It's a bit more complicated to use for a gain that is not worth it, if you can call it a gain at all. Reverberation, however, is a good conduit. Fused Anima Accelerator gives you even more CDR. It gives you a little bit more AoE too. And Braun, even though he can be a pain, he's fine. This video will be primarily talking about Venthyr, since that's what I play almost exclusively. While we're here, we'll talk about Conduits. Your best in slot conduit, she'll play all the time, will be Count the Odds. Ambush Dispatch, 33% chance to grant you a roll that you don't have. This duration is tripled while stealth. So basically, the way that you want to play around this is that when you have Vanish, you'll either build to full combo points Vanish Dispatch, or you'll Vanish and Ambush. The difference between those two things we'll talk about later. Get to Legendaries, but it's very powerful. Lashing Scars, like I said, very powerful. You'll always want to use this as well when you're playing Venthyr. Triple Threat, very good conduit when you're playing Blunderbuss. We'll talk about that more later. You can also play Sleight of Hand, Bad Luck Protection when rolling. Cloaked in Shadows it's a good conduit. I think it's used a lot in PvP. PvE, it doesn't really have its use as much. You get a little bit of shield every time you vanish, it's fine. Good healing from Condensed Atmosphere, however, excuse me. I use Nimble Fingers, Faint, and Crimson Vial a lot. So technically it is a DPS increase because you're using that energy on damaging abilities rather than Faint and Crimson. Recuperator, just solid healing. It does good amount of healing over the course of a key or a raid boss. Amber Dexterity you'll never use. Mastery is a terrible staff for us. We have no reason to stack mastery or use mastery, so we don't care about ambidexterity. All right, now let's talk about legendaries. Okay, there's quite a few. First, we'll start with the one that I play primarily, which is Concealed Blunderbuss. Blunderbuss is very good in single target. It's definitely your best single target raid legendary. The extra pistol shots that it provides has a very good synergy with your 4-set. So the pistol shots that are required to proc your 4-set by hiding these bullets or whatever, pistol shots that fire contribute to your 4-set. So it is very powerful. It's very good in cleave. I use it in keys all the time. Very good priority damage with the pistol shots. Unfortunately, there's been a bug that's been around forever that the pistol shots that are procced from Blunderbuss do not Blade Flurry. Why? I have no idea. But I highly recommend this legendary. Another good thing about it, that you can put it on your wrists. We're in a season where our legendaries are our lowest item level pieces. So it's very beneficial to put on your wrists. You can just kind of put it out of the way. It's a low stat budget thing. Very good legendary. Single target, cleave. Yeah. Greenskin's Wickers is another good legendary as well. It's good for AoE also, although it does lack in single target. Venthyr you can play this with Venthyr, you can play this with Necrolord. They're both very good. They're both very good. You can get away with both in keys, however, I do recommend Concealed Blunderbuss. If you're brand new at Outlaw Rogue, I recommend Celerity. You don't have to think about it. It's very easy. Get an increased damage buff when you press Adrenaline Rush, 8 by 8%. And you have a chance to proc Adrenaline Rush when Slice and Dice is active. So if you're brand new, if you're just learning Outlaw, you can do Celerity. However, your damage will be behind a little bit. That's about it. If you're playing Kyrian, you could do Invigorating Shadow Dust. However, it is a much more complicated build. That's about it. Deathly Shadows, I almost forgot. Deathly Shadows, the legendary I used to use a lot. It's good for burst AoE, vanish, gives you combo points, increases your damage dealt. It's not very popular. A lot of people don't like it, but I used to use it a lot. I used to like it a lot. It does very good burst AoE with Necrolord. You get your BTE up, you get your Between the Eyes up, you vanish, dispatch. You throw out your bone spikes with Blade Flurry on, does good damage. However, in prolonged higher keys, I don't think it's very good. It's good burst AoE, but it falls off pretty fast. Sealed Blunderbuss is very good for long cleave, so for higher keys, for single target and raid, very good. Yeah, so I think that's about it as far as legendaries. There's not really much else to talk about. Guile Charm is behind. Tiny Toxic Blade is obviously worthless. Essence of the Blood Fang, very cool legendary, but it's not great. Master Assassin is pretty fun to use. It lasts 4 seconds. You could do like some weird killing spree thing. It's pretty fun. However, in any kind of real content and raid or keys, I don't recommend it. And of course, the rest of these are not great. With another thing that's very good with Venthyr, you get obedience, which is the get from Unity. It's very easy to get to 30 stacks of flagellation with the 4-set and Outlaw. You get 15% verse basically every 1 minute. Very good. Verse is a very good stat. So it's a great it's a great thing. On that note, Death Spike is also a very fun legendary. If you play Necrolord, it shoots out 2 bone spikes instead of 1, and you have 5 charges. So it's pretty cool. I used to love playing Deathly Shadows, shooting out a ton of bone spikes, and it does big burst dam. However, again, recommend Blunderbuss. I think it is the best, alongside Greenskin Twig. That wraps it up for legendaries. All right. Okay. Where are we at? Let's talk about talents. Okay. So with talents, there's not too much variation. If you're playing Concealed Blunderbuss, you want to use Weapon Master. Okay. You get this proc when Sinister Strike hits an additional time. Weapon Master gives you a 10% increased chance on that. It's a no-brainer. Also, this is why I use Triple Threat when I play Blunderbuss, because I play Weapon Master. So you get way more value off this Triple Threat. 21% chance to hit with both weapons. It's great. The rest of it is basically the same. I play Deeper Stratagem. I recommend Deeper Stratagem when you're playing Blunderbuss. Cheat Death. Obviously, this is whatever you want. I recommend one of these two. Cheat Death obviously will save you. It saves me all the time. Prey on the Weak gives you increased damage when you kidney shot or cheap shot. I think it's great too. Alacrity, fortunately, 100% necessary. Now here's the thing where you can choose between these two. Dancing Steel I use for keys. It gives you more cleave damage. It's easier to keep up your Blade Flurry. Blade Rush, however, it's good for single target. Sometimes when you're playing Blunderbuss, you run into these like dry spells where you're getting bad rolls. You're not getting any Sinister Strike procs. You're low on energy, and you can press Blade Rush, and it gives you energy back. Something to note is that when you're playing Cache of Acquired Treasures, which is a trinket I highly recommend, the bleed that you want to use, you're using the trinket, the only thing that procs it on AoE, press Blade Flurry, the initial damage from Blade Flurry, Blade Rush are the things that apply it in AoE. Nothing else applies it in AoE. The bleed is a single target without that. With subtlety, it's much easier. Shuriken Storm and Black Powder spread it in AoE. So that's something to consider. However, Dancing Steel I use in all my keys. Where was I? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So, if you're playing Greenskin Twickers, you want to use Quick Draw instead. Half-cost uses, it makes your pistol shots that you get do way more damage. Okay? Play Ghostly Strike, I don't really recommend it. You can play it for single target, whatever. Usually it's between these two. You're playing Greenskin Twickers, you can play Mark for Death. Do a lot of CDR. You can snipe low-head mobs. It's fine. Deeper Stratagem I prefer in almost everywhere. Gives you increased damage on your finishing moves. It's great. Regardless of the legendary you play, these are really the only 2 rows that make a difference. In Raid, in pure single target, you'll play Blade Rush. If there's Cleave, it's a good example. Prototype Pantheon is a boss that I would play Dancing Steel. Skolex is a boss that I would play Blade Rush. So there's some kinds of examples. If it's pure single target, Blade Rush. Killing Spree is very dangerous because you have no control over your character when you're pressing it. I wouldn't recommend it. That's about it as far as talents. I don't think there's really much to go over. Acrobatic Strikes is great. That's one of the reasons why Outlaw is so good. You could play Dirty Tricks too. Your gouge is used a lot. There's no energy on it. Blinding Powder is good in PvP. These two aren't too great. Vigor, you have no use for Vigor. Iron Stomach gives you a little bit more healing on your Crimson Vial. It's not great. So I think that's about it for talents. Yep, that's about it for talents. Alright, we're in the Covenant Sanctum now. So let's talk about rotation and re-rolling. So for the rotation, there's a couple things that you're going to want to keep in mind at all times. Want to keep your blade, your slice and dice up always. Want to keep your between the eyes up always on the target you're hitting and leaving off of. Want to make sure you always have a roll the bones buff. You want to make sure that you use Adrenaline Rush, Flagellation on cooldown. Another important thing with Vanish is you want to use it on cooldown to trigger Count the Odds. It's a 99% chance and you're stealthed. Now, you're playing Blunderbuss. I highly recommend you're doing Vanish for Count the Odds to build the full combo points, Vanish, and Dispatch, rather than Vanishing and Ambushing. Okay. Ambush is a lot of energy, and I just wouldn't recommend it. Can energy starve you real quick. Alright. So we'll go over it kind of slow. So what you'll do is you obviously want to be stealthed. You want to roll. It's your first thing. Obviously keep in mind what roll you have. Okay, you go up. You want to ambush to open. Get your slice and dice up. If you're an AoE, Blade Flurry. Adrenaline Rush. Okay. You want to build a full. Flagellation. You want to get your BT up as soon as possible. If you have a Blunderbuss proc, use it as long as you don't overcap. Vanish. Dispatch. Make sure you keep your slice and dice up. Make sure you keep your Blade Flurry up. Use your Foresight procs. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing with opportunity procs. When you're playing Weapon Master and when you're playing Blunderbuss, the only time you want to use opportunity procs is when, of course, it procs Blunderbuss, if it procs your Foresight, or if you're under 70 energy. Otherwise, you just want to keep Sinister Striking to try to get your Blunderbuss to proc. So we'll do it a little bit faster this time, okay? Stealth, we'll roll. We'll ambush. Sinister Slice and Dice, you want to keep your Blade Flurry up. You want to build a full. Keep your between the eyes up. And just build a full. See, I'm under 70, so I'll use this opportunity proc. A little bit energy starved right now, okay? So in these situations, it's okay to use your opportunity procs. Alright, so there's a Blunderbuss proc. I want to use Flagellation. I want to keep my rolls up. I want to, between the eyes, I want to use my Blunderbuss, okay? Vanish. Have Adrenaline Rush back. Keep that on cooldown. It's just like that. See, now that I'm good on energy right now, I don't have to use these opportunity procs. I'm gonna reroll. Keep your between the eyes up. Build a full and dispatch. Build a full and dispatch. Yeah, I'm kind of low on energy. Keep my Blade Flurry up. Make sure I keep my between the eyes up on my main target. Under 70, you can use the opportunity. See, okay, so right here, it might not be obvious because I know what I'm looking at, but right here, this means that the next opportunity proc or the next pistol shot that I use will proc my Foresight. This situation occurs, it's okay to use the opportunity proc if it will proc your Foresight. Right? Also, I have an ability tracker right here, so you see what I'm doing. Let's do it like this really fast. That's just kind of how it is. It takes a while to get used to keeping all these things up and being aware of what you need to keep up. Okay. So what we'll do now is we'll talk about reroll logic. So obviously with Roll of Bones, we get these buffs. Skull and Crossbones, it gives you increased chance to proc, to Sinister Strike to proc an additional time. When you're playing Blunderbuss, this is your best roll, next to Broadside, which gives you an additional combo point for each Sinister Strike or pistol shot you use. When you have a single roll, when you have a single Skull and Crossbones roll, want to keep it when you're playing Blunderbuss. Now, when you get Grand Melee or Buried Treasure, Grand Melee being the one that gives you a little bit of leech and gives you slice and dice per combo point used, Buried Treasure gives you a little bit more energy regen. These rolls are bad. Once you get rid of them as soon as you can. Reroll it if you have one of either, and reroll them if you double roll them, okay? So I just got Sinister Strike, Skull and Crossbones, that's very good. 30% chance to strike an additional time, so that means it's a 75% chance with Weapon Master. Ruthless Precision, which gives you additional crit, is also very good. Flagellation. Okay, you just keep doing that. Use your Blunderbuss, keep Blade Flurry up, keep between the eyes on your target, use opportunity procs if you're under 70 energy, if it will proc your foreset, or if it will proc, or if you have the Blunderbuss proc. Okay, so I rolled Skull and Crossbones here, so I want to keep this roll. However, if it was just Grand Melee, I would re-roll it at the earliest time possible. Okay, got the Blunderbuss. Keep Blade Flurry up. Okay, that's about it. I think I got everything as far as the rotation. Yeah, I think that's about it for rotation. Okay, we'll just go over stats real quick. Best stat. Versatility. Get as much verse as you can. It's great. Damage reduction gives you damage. It's awesome. Crit, also very good. Between the eyes gives you 20% additional crit. Blade flurries. It's great. Want to keep some haste. I usually keep between 13 to 15%. Energy regen, attack speed, fine. Mastery, very bad. Very, very, very bad. Mastery is worthless. It's bad. The haste thing, people say different numbers. Like I said, it's just, I keep around 13. That's what's comfortable for me. You're doing keys in season 4. I get the crit bounty. It's very good. With the exception of Tyrannical Upper Karazhan. Tyrannical Upper Karazhan, I usually get Verse. And I put on Verse Trinkets. Put on this Targeting Reticle. Then I'll put on the Stun Grenade. And I get a lot of Verse, because those bosses are gnarly. But otherwise, yeah. I want to try to get the Verse T too, so you can get big Verse. So when I have the Verse T, I sit around 33%. Makes you very tanky. It's great. I keep around basically 37, 35% crit. Excuse me. Yep. Not much to say on stats. With your legendaries, I recommend crit verse on both. If you have a lot of crit verse on all your gear and your haste is low, you can put haste verse on one of your legendaries. That's totally fine. I used to have haste verse on my gloves when I had my blunderbuss on my gloves. That's totally fine. Right now, I have the keystone, so I have a lot of haste. That puts me up to the haste that I need. So I have crit verse on my legendaries. Yeah, that's about it for obviously agility, very good. Yeah. So I think that's about it. About it for stats. Alright, so let's talk about gear now. Weapons are very important, especially this tier. We have the dinars that you get from killing raid bosses. If you don't loot one, your first purchase is going to be the Edge of Night. It's the best. Put it in your offhand. It's BIS. That's it. End of story. It has a very good proc. You want to upgrade it to Mythic. Get it on Mythic as soon as you can. Second priority. Alright, just 1 second. Second priority is going to be the Cruciform Vein Ripper, which you want to put in your main hand. So that's what I will be using as my second purchase if I don't loot it coming up in the weeks coming up. Very good. Both of these together is extremely, extremely powerful. Increases your single target by a lot. Okay. If you don't raid, I recommend going into Junkyard. So you can get that as a key now. Junkyard has a very good mace. That's crit burst, the cranial recalibrator. So if you can't get into raid, then I recommend going for that. You can use a dagger in your offhand. Very slight DPS increase, like very slight. I think it has like an increased poison application or something. It's very slight. Don't stress yourself out trying to get a dagger. It's not a big deal. If you could get 2 of these, that's great. Cranial recalibrator. We'll talk about trinkets. There are 2 very, very good trinkets. First trinket. Okay. The first trinket that's very, very extremely good. The Cache of Acquired Treasures. If you get your third dinar and you don't loot this, I recommend buying the Cache of Acquired Treasures. It's best in slot. Another extremely good trinket is the Salvage Fusion Amplifier. Extremely, extremely good. But the most important are going to be your weapons. As far as Unity placement, I have mine on my ring right now. I kept it there because I looted this 311 from Kel'Thuzad. I might move my neck there to my neck eventually. A lot of people are moving it to their necks. But I have mine on my ring. There's not a lot of great rings out there for Outlaw. The ring from Sylvanas Windrunner is very good. Right now I have this one from like Upper Karazhan, I think it is. It's verse heavy. A lot of the other rings are not great. This one has a lot of verse, but it has mastery. This one is haste crit. There's not a lot of great rings. I almost forgot. I should go back. And a couple other noteworthy trinkets are the Decanter of Endless Howling. They buffed it, so it gives you crit instead of main stat, and it gives you a bunch of agility. Now it procs off of your crit. So if you're hitting your main target with between the eyes, you're gonna have a lot of crit. I looted the heraldry. It's not a trinket that I would recommend going after. I just wear it because it gives you burst and it has a high item level. So I'm wearing it. Another good trinket, Hateful Chain. It does around 3 to 4% of my damage, heals you a little bit, it's fine. But when I do get my hands on Fusion Amplifier and the cache, I will be replaced. We went over this before. I put Blunderbuss in my wrists. I recommend putting it there. If you get good hands, they're good hands. The belt from The belt from Huntsman, very good. Uh, the tier hands for Rogue are very bad statted. Very bad statted. So obviously, if that's the only way you can complete your 4-piece, by all means wear it. But if you have your 5th piece, I recommend using the helm and shoulders and the pants and the chest. They're very good. Very good stats. The Disasser's Cape, very good. If you can get your hands on a 304 weapon, like right now, I got very lucky and I looted this on our first council kill. The boots from council are also very good. First. The neck from Remnant is pretty good. Good stats. Just some pieces that you can kind of target. Titanic Ocular again is good too. Obviously, you can catalyze high item level pants and stuff. Yeah, I think that's about it. I can't really think of any other gear. Anyway, that's it for my road guide. I hope it was helpful. If I left anything out or if you have any other comments or questions, leave it in the comments below. I stream at twitch.tv/Dr. Funkenslice. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also, I upload videos every couple days, pushing keys with my team. On my Twitch channel, I do, Mythic Raid, and I keep pushing. Yeah. Anyways, oh, well, don't forget to like, too. I think a lot of people say that. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Have a good one.